Bible Study Podcast, episode 547. Today, the Bible Study Podcast continues the study of the kings of Israel and Judah with 1 Kings chapter 4. Welcome to the Bible Study Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. I will be honest with you, I nearly skipped chapter 4. It's somewhat of an administrative chapter, but I did find some things in there that I thought were worth commenting on. And so, 1 Kings chapter 4, Solomon's officials and governors. So King Solomon ruled over all Israel, and these were his chief officials: Azariah, son of Zadok the priest; Elihoreph and Ahijah, sons of Shisha, secretaries; Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, recorder; Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, commander-in-chief; Zadok and Abiathar, priests; Azariah, son of Nathan, in charge of the district governors; Zabud, son of Nathan, a priest and advisor to the king; Ahishar, palace administrator; Adoniram, son of Abijah, in charge of forced labor. Solomon had 12 district governors all over Israel who supplied provisions for the king and the royal household. Each one had to provide supplies for 1 month in the year. These are their names: Ben-Hur in the hill country of Ephraim, Ben-Decker in Makaz, Shalbim, Beth Shemesh, and Alan, Beth Hanan; Ben-Hesed in Arubath, Soko, and all the lands of Hepher were his; Ben-Abinadab in Naphath Dor, he was married to Taphath, daughter of Solomon; Bana, son of Ahilud, in Tanakh and Megiddo, in all of Beth-Shan next to Zerathon, below Jezreel, from Beth-Shan to Abel-Meholah, across to Jokmeam; Ben-Geber in Roth-Gilead. The settlements of Jair, son of Manasseh, in Gilead were his, as well as the region of Argob in Bashan and its 60 large walled cities with bronze gate bars; Ahinadab, son of Iddo, in Mahanaim; Ahimaaz in Naphtali, he had married Bashmath, daughter of Solomon; Bana, son of Ashai, in Asher and in Alath; Jehoshaphat, son of Paruah, in Issachar; Shimei, son of Elah, in Benjamin; Geber, son of Uri, in Gilead; the county of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the county of Og, king of Bashan. He was the only governor over the district. Okay, so a lot of information there that's really easy to jump over. As I said, one of the things that I noticed about here is, do you notice how many people are the son of? I know it just means the ones at the beginning: Azariah, the son of Nathan, and Zabad, the son of Nathan. But I also mean all those other ones: Ben-Hur, Ben-Decker, that means the son of. Ben-Hur means literally the son of Hur. Ben-Decker, the son of Decker. And so what we're seeing here is a new generation. And this is significant not so much here as it will be significant one generation later. So put a pin in this thought that as we're changing kings, we're not just changing the king and everybody else stays the same. But David lived to a ripe old age, so a lot of the people who had served him had already retired or died, or it was time for someone else. So even Nathan the prophet, who helps Solomon become king, his time is wrapping up here, and so we see his sons are grown men who are, in fact, governors or officials. One's a priest and advisor, and one is in charge of the district governors. And so we get this moving on of generations. And of course, we read through these chapters fairly quickly, and so we miss the span of time. David served such a long time that he was a very old man at the end. And Solomon was the youngest of one of David's sons, or at least younger than a lot of the other brothers, the two brothers who had tried to rule, for instance. And so we do see that, first of all, that generational change. There are no term limits on kings. There are only abdications, assassinations, usurpations, or death. So basically, the king is the king until the king doesn't want to be, in the case of David, or until he dies, in the case of Saul, or, as we'll see later on, until he gets assassinated or thrown out of office in some other way, as in the way that David's sons tried to kick him out twice. So kings can be king for a long time, and when they are, there's this whole generational change. And with that, you lose a lot of the context. And so with the generational change, one of the things that is the danger, and we'll see this again in one generation, is that you can lose some of the wisdom and you can lose some of the understanding of where you've been. And we saw that during the time of the judges a lot, that you'd get a judge would raise up and they'd do really well, and then everything would go well until that judge died. And with the death of the judge, there was a lack of continuity and people would go back to their old ways. So that's the first thing that I noticed. The second thing that was interesting is we do have this rather interesting setup where there are 12 governors. There are also 12 tribes. It doesn't necessarily match exactly the same. And that each of the 12 governors takes turn providing for the central government, basically for 1 month of the year. And so there are 12 districts, and they provide the king and the royal household only 1 month out of the year. And so it's sort of like if you divided up the federal budget into 50 and said, okay, Alabama, you're going to be this part of the year, and California, you're going to be this other part of the year. That's the way that they're doing it. Obviously, their central budget, the king's household, is a smaller portion than what we think of, or than what governments would be for quite a long time. As you look through history, quite often the central government is not collecting a lot of taxes in the same kind of proportion that we think about today, nor is it providing as many services. And the standing armies are small and all those other things that happen with that. And we get a lot of place names. Some of them are very interesting. Some of these areas are gone. Things like Ramoth Gilead, which was a city on the Jordan River, hasn't been there for many, 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 many years. And then some of them, like Megiddo, we get one of the people is in Tanakh and Megiddo. And you can go visit Tel Megiddo, which is a hill that is a national park in Israel today, and see the many generations of cities that were built on this one spot. And this is a significant area because this is a hill that overlooks the valley that cuts across between Egypt and Mesopotamia, between Egypt and the Tigris and Euphrates River. And so a lot of battles were fought in this area, and it is the area that we would know later on in the Bible as Armageddon. Tel Megiddo, and Megiddo becomes Megiddon as you switch from Hebrew to Greek. And so that's an area you can visit today that is significant historically and also apparently significant coming up in the future here. And then we also get some names like Jehoshaphat that will get echoes of later on in later generations. That will be the name of a later king. This is obviously not that person. A couple different people here are son-in-laws who get appointed to governorships. So apparently there is certainly some nepotism that happens here where various son-in-laws are given portion of the government. There were no laws against it at the time. And then notice also that there is a official in charge of forced labor. Well, remember that some of that is going to be the people who have been allowed to stay in Israel, like the Amorites. We get the mention of the county of the king of the Amorites. They are still in Israel and ironically are put to forced labor, which is weird because that's what the Israelis were doing in Egypt. And then we go on to Solomon's daily provisions. The people of Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand on the seashore. They ate, they drank, and they were happy. And Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms from the Euphrates River to the land of the Philistines as far as the border of Egypt. These countries brought tribute and were Solomon's subjects all his life. Solomon's daily provisions were 30 cores of the finest flour and 60 cores of meal, 10 head of stall-fed cattle, 20 of pasture-fed cattle, and 100 sheep and goats, as well as deer, gazelles, roebucks, and choice fowl. For he ruled over all the kingdoms west of the Euphrates River from Tifsah to Gaza, and had peace on all sides. During Solomon's lifetime, Judah and Israel from Dan to Beersheba lived in safety, everyone under their own vine and under their own fig tree. Solomon had 4,000 stalls for chariot horses and 12,000 horses. The district governors, each in his month, supplied provisions for King Solomon and all who came to the king's table. They saw to it that nothing was lacking. They also brought to the proper place their quotas of barley and straw for the chariot horses and the other horses. So we get this sense that everything is well organized, everything is running well, everything is going well. There's a chicken in every pot and a vine and a fig tree for every person. So that's the overriding thing here, is that Solomon's days are going to be good days. And then we get to Solomon's wisdom. God gave Solomon wisdom and very great insight, and a breadth of understanding as measureless as the sand on the seashore. Solomon's wisdom was greater than the wisdom of all the people of the East, and greater than all the wisdom of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else, including Ethan the Ezrahite, wiser than Heman, Kelkol, and Darda, the sons of Mahol, and his fame spread to all the surrounding nations. He spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. He spoke about plant life, from the cedar of Lebanon to the hyssop that grows out of walls. He also spoke about animals and birds, reptiles and fish. From all nations people came to listen to Solomon's wisdom, sent by all the kings of the world who had heard of his wisdom. The interesting thing there is he seems to have both wisdom and knowledge, right? He's not just judging wisely, as we saw last week, but he knows a lot of things about plants and animals and hyssop and all of these sorts of things. I love the fact that we get he's even wiser than, and then we get 4 different people who we've never heard of. But they are basically the people who one would suspect get the honorable mention as wise in their day. They are probably not mentioned as people who were foolish, but as in people who were, he's even wiser than. You want to be in that discussion, right? You don't have to be the one that they say, well, he's the wisest person ever. But it's nice to be in that discussion. It's nice that when people talk about you, as we remember these sons of Mahol, we don't know much about them, but we know that they were compared to Solomon. We know that when you're having a discussion of people who are wise, you had to bring up these people and say, well, yeah, okay, I know he's wise, but is he wiser than the sons of Mahol? I want to be in that discussion. I want people to think about me that way. I want people to judge me based on what I say and what I do and come to the conclusion that at least I deserve to be on that list. And you definitely want your leaders to be somewhere on that list. They don't have to be number 1. They don't have to be number 2, but they have to be in that discussion. If they're not, bad things can happen. It is good when a leader has wisdom. And Solomon does, and because he does, things are going very well. With that, we're going to end this episode of the Bible Study Podcast. If you have any questions, send an email to host@thebiblestudypodcast.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at thebiblestudypodcast.com. And thanks so much for listening.
Is life feeling chaotic? I get it. I'm Rachel Wojo, host of the Untangling Life podcast. Don't miss the passionate encouragement and faith-based resources you need to help you clear your head and calm your heart. As Shell says, it feels like Rachel always knows what I need to hear. She keeps it real and is so humble. Her podcast is just the cherry on top. Enjoy Untangling Life with Rachel Wojo on lifeaudio.com or your favorite podcast app now.